Hey friends. I I've had something coming up over the last 2-3 days because I've found, and there are reasons for this, but I've found myself being more tired than usual. When I say reasons for this, it's not like they're incredibly complicated. It's I've been going to bed later and getting up at the same time, so I've been getting less sleep. It's kind of a mathematical issue. But, um, however, while on the surface it seems cut and dry and simple like that, there's always, I find anyway, there are almost always deeper forces at play when I go through a phase of my life, or even just a short period of a couple of days. There's almost always something else going on. It's not just it's not as simple as I'm just not getting as much sleep. There's almost always something deeper, something larger going on that's involved. And I've found, I did a post a couple days ago where I spoke about the effect of my day, the events of my day, being enhanced by the fact that I was exceptionally tired, which created a kind of vulnerability, a sort of a lack of the usual energy to repel certain feelings, certain emotions, right? I'm sure we've all been there. And as a result of that, though, my learning and my availability to insight, or at least my exposure to opportunities for insight, was enhanced because I couldn't just deflect the events of the day. I couldn't just kind of like keep trucking regardless of the obstacles or the barriers that were coming up. I did keep trucking, but it took more effort than usual. And I therefore noticed the restriction, and I noticed my own relation to them, and I felt, and I was able to connect. Oh, okay, this is what is really kind of coming through for me around this particular conundrum in my life, or this particular area of practice in my life. So all of that, all of that was really helpful to see, and I'm bringing it up again now because it has come up again. I felt myself the last couple of mornings. I've woken up and it's been like, oh my God, I could just lie here for another 3 hours. And I don't often have that feeling. I usually bounce out of bed between 4:30 and 5 like it's nothing. And so I observe it when something comes up that changes that. I observe it, and I've been reminding myself, because I'm having that experience. I've been reminding myself of something that I have known to be true for a long time, which is when we hit pockets of resistance, either in an area of life or in life in general. This can be very specifically, and this is why I love creative work as a metaphor for life, as a kind of microcosm, because everything that happens in the creative process, everything that happens over the course of a creative project, is a little micro version of life itself. Because guess what? Life is a creative project. Life is a creative process. So specifically engaging, and ultimately it'd be very hard to find a project or a process that wasn't a creative process. But especially when it's explicitly creative and it's, potentially artistic, or we are actively approaching it as a creative process, consciously approaching it as a creative process, especially in those instances, we can be alert to lessons that might be lessons that apply to life in general and not just the making of art in our particular field or whatever. So I've been trying to let that in over the last couple of days. I've been trying to observe, like, okay, I am hitting this period where things feel like they just take a little more effort than usual. Now, the funny thing is, I've had a couple of days as well where it's like that initial hump, it's that first push, that initial resistance. And once I get over that, my day sails. And I had a message come through today that basically was like a phrase that came. It was like a message straight to my mind that was like, this effort is going to pay off in ways you can't even imagine. It's going to pay off in ways you can't yet see. And I really believe that's true. I really believe that when we acknowledge that resistance, and we know, it's like when we know that lifting the weight costs us a little more today than it does on a normal day. Those days where it feels like today's just going to take a little more of me. It's going to require a little more of me. Those days are gold. They are a golden opportunity. And it's easy to think, that can be counterintuitive, because it's easy to think those days are the ones where we just shouldn't get out of bed. Like, just rest, don't stress, don't push, And I'm not saying that there aren't times when we need to do that too, but I am saying that sometimes when we have that feeling of like, oh God, today just feels heavy, and this thing that I know I want to do that's important to me feels heavy, and do I have the strength to do it? I don't know, right? Those days are the ones where massive benefits can accrue if we're willing to stay with it, willing to keep moving. And I had one of those days today. I just had a day where I was like, okay, here we go. Let's do it. I'm not going to get worked up. I'm just going to let myself be a little tired. I'm going to let myself start a little feeling behind the 8 ball. We're going to go. And not only, the amazing thing is, after sort of making that resolution, I ease up internally, because now there may be physical effort involved. There may be psychological effort involved. There may even be emotional effort involved. But fundamentally, spiritually, as a core, in the core of my being, I'm surrendered to what is required of me. I'm not fighting what's required of me. And that's the difference. That's everything. There is no amount of effort that is wrong to make. It's just, are we surrendered to that effort? Or are we in resistance to the effort? Are we trying to bargain with the effort? Are we trying to get what the effort once is designed to achieve, but try to get it with a little less effort than is actually required? it's the poet Hafiz calls it bartering with God, haggling over the price. Is a beautiful poem. I can't remember all of it, but it's like something along. I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's something along the lines of all of your pain and suffering comes down to this: God is trying to sell you something, and you don't want to buy. And then it's like all your suffering is this: your fantastic haggling over the price. Haggling over the price. I love that phrase because it's like it just evokes this wonderful image, and it's so for me it just really resonates with what it feels like to know what is required of me and to be just not quite fully, somehow thinking I can maybe get out of this, or I can get off a little easier than it seemed. I'm haggling, I'm trying to bargain, I'm trying to barter. But today I just surrendered, and it meant that the day was really beautiful. I was able to lean into play. I was working with my daughter on violin, which has been really beautiful recently, but always requires effort. And I very consciously today, at moments when I thought I might, when I was experiencing frustration, it was like the message, like my mind was open, my consciousness was just telling me, it's play. It's got to be play. Keep it about play. Keep it about play. Keep it about play. Keep it about play. And so there were some moments where I took my frustration and I did my best to turn it into play. And it was good. So yeah, that's where I am today. No more haggling over the price. Just step up, pay the price, live life. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.